Hey there, folks. It's me, Chris, with the Gig Man's Life. Yeah, baby. It's a Gig Man's Life indeed. Of course, that always gets me going. Just like somebody hitting that subscribe button, ringing notification bell, liking and sharing these videos, commenting below, trying to build up a community of people that are talking about the gig life and not just about the ride share delivery apps that are out there. There's a whole plethora of gigs that people do to make money. There's IT gigs, which I've been looking at to go like this and say, yeah, I'll go and do at-home service calls. You're going to pay me the money to drive there and then do. Yeah, I've done that. I was a contractor for a contractor to the contractor to Dell, and showed up and fixed Dell computers. They have a whole thing about testing and making sure that their contractors know what they're doing. And that's where my biggess gripe with a lot of these gig apps, of course, they are trying to get to the autonomous zone, and have driverless cars for ride share and delivery. Let's go and have a bunch of drones with 30 pounds flying through the air with the greatest of ease. Yeah, that is something that scares the hell out of me. It should scare the hell out of you, because one big spark, one issue of a number being wrong, and we can have multiple issues far beyond what we can even imagine. And it's scary out there with people thinking that this should be normal. This also dehumanizes a lot of people. This is why we have the increase of a lot of things that happen, but also that increases just because we're reporting more things. But anyways, this video is one of the first times where I'm going to be talking about switching up again. Yes, I'm thinking of just doing a video placed out Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. on YouTube, and doing live streams 8 a.m. Monday through Friday on Rumble. It's a division of time and labor. I can do a lot more pre-recorded material to put out on YouTube, and on the spot material on Rumble, where I can go and cover things, because it's 31-1 right now. That's the ratio. I have 31 subscribers to 1 follower on Rumble. That's not a ratio as per se, but right now it is the ratio. You can break down the ratio as it goes along. I can do that too. And that would be one of those things of just seeing it, because you see it right on the thing here. But of course, neither here nor there nor anywhere. Yes, I had to throw in that close-up thing for the
bullshit moments.
Yes, because there's a lot of those out here, especially with what I had to deal with on Friday. That knocked me down. It took me out for a good portion of the day. Also stressed me out, which didn't help me out at all. And it mainly came down to cleaning out my car, because I had an elderly lady who lost bladder control. And thanks to the rental car company who over fragrant the car, I couldn't tell. I seriously could not tell that somebody did that in the back seat of my car. And I'm an ex-smoker, which you think makes you not be able to smell things. No, I can smell a lot more now that I do not smoke. It's up to the point where some fragrances totally make me want to gag. There's times where even people wearing a decent amount makes me have a reaction. And so having a car over scented wasn't a great thing, but it didn't also help me to go and detect that somebody peed in the back seat. And I went to my next pickup, and the gentleman found that the seat was wet. And of course, that made me go and realize what the issue was. And I had to go and get cleaned. I promised the passenger he had to go back inside, get himself another pair of pants. Was delayed to get into his job, which was at a food service that pretends to be from a place it never visited. You know, they always like the tourism part that they do, but you know, it's getting a taste of the down under. But you know, neither here nor there. It's just what it is. And I promised the gentleman that, you know, I'll make sure that you're whole, that we're going to go and refund you this money. And of course, this is one of the things where I get on to training, because I have never refunded a person. They didn't go through that at all in anything, which training would have. Quantified training, meaning that you test people on how to deal with things and have better customer relations. But that's because they want automation. They want to go and have robot drivers. They want to go and have drones delivering everything that, you know, will protect people. But then you're adding the fact of when something goes wrong, that they'll overpower. They're not going to be able to deliver or do things in certain climates. They're not going to go and be able to tell that there's a obstacle that just suddenly came down and what to do. You know, still, it's what a person's reaction is. And, you know, I wouldn't want to go and severely trust machines to do these things. But, hey, this is the dehumanization of people. This is why we have people that are willing to do things to others, because they don't have to go and talk to others. And that's why we are talking. That's why I don't edit these videos, as that if I make a mistake,
all right, mistakes were made,
I'll own up to it. But you know, it's just what it is. Since she did go and do that, I promised to the gentleman that, you know, look, you had to go and get your pants changed. You're delayed getting to work. You're going to be thinking about this the whole day. I'm going to make sure that you're whole. Of course, they only refund him what I got paid, after explaining the situation to them. After explaining the situation and being a person that has never had to deal with this before, you know, just assuming that maybe they would do this and do the right thing of refunding the whole trip to the customer. No, they only refunded my part. The customer decided that he was going to go and rightfully complain about the whole situation. And this is why I will tell you, if you're going out there, you're renting a car, make sure you do the walk around with your camera, film it, the condition the car is in. They at the rental car company are only going to take pictures. Filming it is many more pictures than what they do. It makes sure that you have evidence of how your car's condition was at the time of picking up the customer or picking up the rental. And, you know, this should be done right after you wash the car or right before you pick up the car from a rental, so that you go and have evidence of what you're dealing with and how you present to a customer, because that is what will save your ass. And unfortunately, no, I didn't have footage of how my car looked, so I could go and dump it on to the platform to say, look, This is what my car looked like. This is what happened. And this is what I was presenting to the customer. And this is why they should get a refund, total refund, because of that. But yet, then I get your car looks like trash, not polite. And I was trying to be as polite as can be in that situation where I can't really be mad at the 80-year-old for losing her continence, but at the same time can't be at all dismissive on what happened. So, that is what it is. There is just too much shit that goes down at times, and you just got to suck it up. And yes, of course, I got to suck it up and move on from that, because as I will say, they show truly that they don't train any drivers. If they want to go and have people go out there and drive people around, now I know I have to go and check every time that I have elderly people in the car what happens in the back, to make sure that I'm not looking at another time where I have to end my day to clean up the back of my car, or end up going and refunding the passenger. Because we're doing a lot in that vehicle than just driving you around. We are the customer service representative on site. And a lot of us try to do our best. But at the end of the day, we have to go and look at the situations as it is. And that's why every time I talk about DoorDash Girl and people go and say, she can't use that as a defense of lack of training. The thing is that there's two cases. One of the cases I don't think is ever going to, her case, because of the lack of training, she can go and argue it in court for her plea deal to take off the first charge of illegal surveillance, because we are told to take pictures of issues. We are told to document issues. It is in the policies, and if you look at it, that's what she was doing. That's a reactionary, and everything else. But posting it, that was her major faux pas. Now, when it comes down to DoorDash, of course, I'm saying you're not going to see that lawsuit. You won't see her get sued. Because, and I will tell you, this is the big because. If she gets sued, a good lawyer for her lawsuit will go into discovery about DoorDash's practices, especially with the fact of training. And if you don't think that isn't going to happen, then you never dealt with lawyers before. And a good lawyer is going to go and look at any possible defense that they can possibly present, because especially in criminal law, that can throw out a court case that the lawyer did not try their on an appeal, proving that a lawyer was not competent enough to try all avenues or all defenses. That is what it is. But when she accepts the plea deal, that there's going to be that stipulation, you're not going to go for an appeal, And most likely she is going to get the dissemination charge, not the filming charge. Because if a good lawyer will argue, still, this is what the company suggests to do. But they don't talk about putting it out on TikTok. Without training, without quantification of testing, of saying, no, I know not to go and put this out there, which it's coming, folks. I'm going to tell you, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's coming, just like the electronic book, thanks to the Phoenix driver out there in Arizona, which possibly he could have been door dashing earlier in the day and then decided to go out at night because it was New Year's Eve and hustle. And I will say, does this shit happen? Yes, it does. Should it happen? No, it shouldn't. And what they're going to do is they're going to put all of us who are driving on an electronic book. They're going to restrict us to 12 hours of driving per day. And that's what's going to happen. And if you're not on that book, your insurance rates are going to be so high you can't afford to go and drive a vehicle. But, that is just an educated guess. Just an observation. Just my thoughts upon observations. This isn't anything that's concrete. But, I hate to go and say maybe this might be later on where people will look back on this and say, look, this fucker's talking about it, and look what happened. They're doing the electronic book. The shit happened the next day when I was in 4th grade. Having 140 IQ makes you realize patterns. And when you want to go out and just play and everybody else was too fucking loud, where they said, basically, no, we're not going out. And then you suggest putting a sound meter at every table to find out who's the loudest. You just can't do that, but, because sound meters were rather expensive. But when you go and just have one sound meter and then, you get laughed at for the suggestion, then the principal decides that, yes, let's go and compound on to that. Yeah, you tend to be a little bit more quieter. I'm not quiet anymore about these things now. I recognize patterns. I realize where they're going. And yes, they're looking at automation to solve everything and anything, but we have weather. We have climates. We have situations that is not going to work for automation to operate in at the speed that people want service. And we are all in a service industry. So keep that in mind, folks. I thank you very much for watching. Please hit that like, share, subscribe. Get that notification bell so that you can get notified of when the latest videos are out. But usually I'll make sure that there's always one video out by 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. And hey, make sure you're out there for the right purposes and making your money. Have a good one.